And what it is, I guess in a nutshell, is pretty much a Midi generative tool that you can use. For those that like Midi generative tools, this will probably intrigue you a lot. But for those that don't, this probably won't. But if you don't, I'm going to show you kind of my method to this little thing. And I'll walk you through basically what I know of it. There's still a lot to learn. But I think it's one of those tools that if you have it, you'll enjoy it for what it can do for you, right? But you got to figure that out. Okay, so there's a lot here. Let's just start from the coolest thing, first of all, is that if you touch a perimeter, it tells you what it does. So you can start with, there's presets that are built in, but you don't have to keep them, or you can. This switches you between the preset and the actual main screen where you're going to do the stuff. This is your settings. Now it does have a standalone where you can bring audio sound into it, as far as I know, and that works. The one thing I will say is if you're going to run this in a DAW and use it in a active setting, which I'll show you in a second, make sure you lock the scale, because if you don't lock the scale, what it'll do is it will have you really sounding off. Your music will sound crazy. They built a nice note collection. This is all their notes in here. You can see how many, which is really cool. And you can randomly use this little button here or this one to load random note collections. What I mean by note collections is basically like the notes within that scale of that collection, right? This is to randomize all the features, the global features. So each one of these can be, for the most part, minus this, which I have locked the BPM on here because I want it to lock to what my DAW is set to, right? If you don't have it locked, you can adjust. You can still adjust and change the tempo, but right now I want it to reflect what my DAW shows. This is your notes, which you can set a random number of notes. How many notes are these right here that hit? Okay. And these little bars, bars that run across, you'll see it looks like a peace sign too. Every time a note hits that bar, one of these notes come around, hit that bar, then it will trigger. So let me just put it in keyboard mode. That, by the way, this is keyboard mode. This is when you just want it to play generatively with your DAW transport. This is when you want to play it. So you see if I hold a key down, it just goes through, and every time it flashes, you know that a note's hitting, a triggering. Okay. I'm not going to do a lot of random offsets. I'm going to show you what the final product is after I show you this. So here's the offset. So you can offset the cue. You can offset this one too, likewise. So random free offset, random speed offset. So you can change the speed up a little bit. This is your quantize offset. So if you want it a little off the grid and not so strapped perfectly, that's what you would use. The BPM, you guys know what that is. It's pretty simple. Here's your random duration. I think you meant duration. I think that might be a typo. Yeah, it says DTU or DUT rather, ARION, but up here, I think it's just a typo. So I guess he'll have to fix it. I might mention it to him if he sees this video, he'll know it's a typo right there. Anyway, random loop length. So you can have the loop length to whatever whatever you're gonna set it to. It's basically like it says here, the speed at which the notes complete a full loop. The dev that made this right here, Mario Nieto, did a great job. Plus he has a manual for it, so you can read it on there if you would like to. I think he did a great job on not only the device itself, but actually being able to put all these helpful tips in here to tell you what it is. So here you go. So that's the loop, and then the probability. So this determines the probability, likelihood of notes being triggered or not. So you might want to play with that if you like probability. I do. I like it a lot. Sometimes I'll just leave it though, but you can randomize it if you want. I told you this before, if you set here, then it just controls by the DAW. If you go here, then it's played by you pressing the key. Okay, it's a trigger. This is to start or stop a sequence, and then this is to re-trigger. And then what you can do is, if you put it on there, you can set the minimum and the maximum of what you want the note generation to start, where you want it to start and where you want it to end. So that's pretty clever. This is a toggle for the natural velocity variation, so it'll randomly assign these velocity variations to it so that it can be more expressive. I like what it's set at 50 to 100. That's pretty good. You don't want to like abnormal low, but you don't want it too high. But if you do want it low, just lower the volume. Lower the max and lower the minimum. Then this is kind of a cool feature that you can click and activate MIDI capture. Now in a DAW, it'll wait for you to start playing the DAW and then it'll capture it. But in my opinion, in a DAW, I'm just going to press record and capture it. Plus, MIDI capture is built into most DAWs. But if you don't have MIDI capture like that, then this is a great feature. But because I think MIDI capture is built into DAWs nowadays, I think you can just, at least in Ableton, you can click right here and just capture it. And this button allows you to export the captured MIDI sequence. And then this one allows you to click and hold the button so that you can grab the captured MIDI. Some of these tools, probably these right here, I won't use much, and because if I'm recording with this, more than likely I'm in a DAW, so I don't really need it. But it's still a great feature to have, and I'm sure there's some good valid reasons to use it. So let's look at some examples. I'm not gonna play this portion for you. I will play it. I'll have to mute this particular one so that you don't hear it. So let's just go in here and mute the clip. We'll deactivate the clip. And then here's a sample from Cymatics Pack International. And you see I just ran the slicer on it in the simpler for 77%. So, and I put a little saturation on it. All right. So I'm going to run, to set it up, you got to put it on its own track, right? It's a MIDI device, but you put it on its own track. You want to turn it on, obviously, and make sure it's set to end, so it's going into whatever. All right, kind of like the same way I have scalar set up. Same principle, no different. All right, so this is controlling whatever track you want it to control, but you have to tell it. So I'm going to tell it go to Harmony Moon, and then it's going to be Harmony Moon underneath, right? So now it's controlling this track. So I'll set the record here so you can hear it, and then I'll press play. Now, again, this is set to play with the DAW, right? So I'm going to leave it open, but the DAW is going to control. So that you hear this, I'm going to turn this one off because it's the second one I've done. So I want you to hear just the basic of the track. Okay. Now I'm going to add this in. Actually, it should be playing. So let's solo it just to check. It's not playing. Okay. Did I turn it off? Yeah, it's not playing. Hold on a second. That's not right. Let's just make sure that it's connected. And let's turn on the keyboard. There we go. Okay, so maybe because I deactivated this clip, let's move this clip over here just so it's out of the way. I don't want to get rid of it. It's my actual one, but I'm going to activate the clip. But I want it to play over here. Okay, so watch. Now let's play it. Is it still not playing? Yeah, because it's not playing because you'll see it moving. So give me 1 second to figure out why it's not playing. Okay, set to auto. That's correct. All right, let's just make a duplicate track. Then we can just mute this track here. Okay, and then this track here, I'll just delete this because we don't need it. Now let's see if we can get the harmony going, because it should be working. Go back into harmony, make sure it's set to be controlled by the DAW. There you go. So see how I can watch this? I can hit global. And it's going to change the note collection. But this is locked. That sounds okay. Just mess with the probability a little bit. So you can come up with some crazy little extra rhythms that you can add. It's wild. I love it. So that's pretty much what it's doing, is generating MIDI notes. And I think it does a great job, because a lot of times the generative stuff, even the stuff in Ableton, to me is like super hit and miss when it comes to generative stuff. And it's not that it doesn't, like, I think it can do well on some things like hats and percussion stuff, but when it comes to like the chords, generating chords and things of that nature, I usually find it to not be pleasing to the ear, especially with melodies and stuff, because usually I play my own melodies in. But this one, I actually think this one sounds really good. And I mean, my goodness, it's doing all kinds of generative stuff down here. So you'll see it changing the notes. Sometimes you want a simple melody, like a 4 or 5 note, maybe 8 notes is plenty, right? So you might want to plug that in yourself. Just depends on the person. You could even type in the note if you want to put some in. Same thing here, like if you want to offset it to. So you get the point. Now you could also generate like random. You could pick random presets up here too, so you don't even have to go in. You just be like, all right, I'm gonna pick this one. What is this right here? Pick one and start trying to play from the preset. Cool. So that's basically what it is. There's not much more to show yet, but I do know that the dev has got an update coming at some point because I saw he did a video on it where it looks like he was running four at the same time in harmony with each other, which I thought was kind of unique in its own way, and it sounds really good. Of course, you can trigger this yourself so that if you don't want it just to generate. Which is kind of cool because if you have samples, so like in this case, I sample, here's a sample, right? So it's not just randomly playing. You could play the notes yourself, the samples you want, and let the generative stuff happen. So that's what I'm doing here. That's pretty cool. I like that. I didn't even think about that till just now. It just hit me that you could do that. But by the way, on top of the sample being there, I'm using Valhalla Vintage Verb 79 Studio Chamber. So I do think if you take that off, it's going to sound a little bit different. So let's just play it. I just turned that portion on. So you could do that too and use it for that. So fun stuff here for those that like the generative stuff, but it's also pretty cool what it adds to even when you're just playing notes. So if you just hold down, like I said, hold down something repetitive. Let's mix it up. You can put this on anything that's a Midi plugin. So I'm just using it on a simpler, but you could put it on drum racks, any of it, and have it just generate. It'll randomly select certain notes within whatever the scale is that you picked, or not the scale, but the minimum and maximum note that you picked to be generated. You can see here if you pick a different one here, it's gonna vary it a little bit for you. So I really don't think you need I think the presets are cool, but you don't really need the presets if I'm being honest with regards to using it in a DAW. When you're in the keyboard mode, it's just playing whatever key you're pressing and doing the generative stuff type. I'll be honest, my favorite thing is though to just let it play without me playing it. Maybe it's cool, I guess, sometimes to do it the other way and just sit here and just generate till you find something that you like that fits a vibe and then build over it or build into it, either way. But yeah, It's super cheap too. It's only like 29 euros, which is probably like 30. I'm guessing right now like $33, $35 at the max. But it's pretty cool, and you do not need Ableton to get this. I'm running an Ableton. You don't need Ableton for this plugin. This plugin, it will work in Logic or other stuff too. So pretty cool. Just wanted to share it with you. Something I'm messing around with too. If you're interested, here's the website. I'll show it to you on here. I'm not getting paid a dime to show you this, so, but it's his name pretty much, and then world, right? So Mario Nieto, I'm gonna call it world.com. So check it out. He's got some YouTube videos. You can see how he's doing it on there. Obviously, he's going to know how to do it better. It's his device. He built it. So check his stuff out. Harmony Bloom is the name of the plugin. And yeah, that's it for this video. I'm out.